No, but you can wait 22 seconds and you'll get onto my nap.
Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel. We're halfway through. We've previewed 14 races so far, hopefully tipped a few winners. Andrew, the first two videos have gone down very, very well. Thank you very much for all of the support on those. I think the first one at the moment has got 7,000 views and plenty of likes as well. And those likes really do help the channel, so they're massively appreciated. Talking of being appreciated, appreciate it. I'm glad to see that people are starting to warm to appreciate it. We've been loyal by him.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, common sense is prevailing within the racing public. Look, he's just got the best chance of winning. I know he's the favourite. That's, you know, fairly obvious to say. But with the amount of talk against him I've seen in recent weeks, you'd swear he wasn't the favourite. It seems that everyone wanted to take him on for a while. It seems that people are finally beginning to go full circle on it, and it would certainly be a lovely start to the week if Appreciated wins the Supreme by a couple of lengths for Paul Townend and Willie Mullins. I know the week's going to go well.
I've got the same feeling and I hope that happens. Today we're going to be previewing the Thursday and plenty of brilliant horses on show and a real treat in the stayers, which I'm looking forward to previewing. But the first race is the Marsh Novices Chase. I don't think we need to overcomplicate this one, and I don't think we need to talk about it too much. I think we're both in agreement that Envoi Allen will win.
Yep.
Who's going to put it up to Envoi Allen, if anyone? I think we can both agree that Envoi Allen is in a league of his own. He jumps so well, he travels so well, unbeaten. There's not much you can crab him with, but if you're looking at the contenders, which one would you fancy finishing second to Envoi Allen?
I think the more and more I look at it, the more and more I'd probably give a chance to Chantry House. I think he hasn't been just foot perfect this year. He's obviously very disappointing at the November meeting behind Fussell Raffles and Lieutenant Rocco. By the time that he runs in the Marsh Novices Chase, I'm sure me and you both hope that Lieutenant Rocco's done plenty for that form on the first day. But I thought he was really impressive at Wetherby the other week on a bit of nicer ground. He beat Coconut Splash of Evan Williams, who's a decent enough horse in his own right. I do think a bit of better ground makes the horse jump better and makes him travel a little bit easier. I think Chamblou had a terribly tough race at Sandown in the Scilly Isles. He's an admirable horse. He jumped super, but I don't know whether he's left some of his Cheltenham run on that Sandown hill. So I'd be prepared to take him on in the without market. But as you said, look, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Envoi goes and just does the business. He's one of the best horses in training, if not the best, and I hope he does it. And if you wanted a bet in the without market, I'd go for Chantry House.
It goes back to that old saying that racing needs superstars, and if Envoi Allen can win here, it'll tee up a lovely, lovely race next year with Monkfish if he wins the RSA or the Brown Advisory. Looking down the field, I would probably go with Nicky Henderson's other horse if it came up good, and that'd be Fussell Raffles. I think on quicker ground he'd have a squeak. Good form around Cheltenham. Was disappointing the second last day, but he rectified that last time out. Had a bit of a break, didn't want to touch the winter ground or the deep winter ground, and hopefully he'd go close at 16-1. But I think we're both in agreement. Envoi Allen to get the day off to a flyer. And look, if we've not had a winner by this point,
you'd be steaming in.
Yeah. Fingers crossed he can provide the goods. The next race is a 3 miles handicap hurdle, the Pertemps Network final. The favourite is Imperial Alcazar. Champagne Platinum's come in for money. The Boss's Oscar got a really high rating. I was keen on him. I think we both were all year. And there's a few other good chances as well. Has your opinion changed at all on this race?
Yeah, I'm finding it a head scratcher of all head scratchers. It's probably the handicap of the week that I'm struggling with the most. Actually, I like Imperial Alcazar and I like the Boss's Oscar. I just don't know whether they're good enough to defy their marks. I know I'm pretty much assuming that they won't claim off Imperial Alcazar off 147. I'm sure Paddy Brennan will ride. But I don't know, is he quite good enough to be winning a Pertemps off 147? He'd want to be a Grade 1 novice chaser next year, I think, to win off that racing. The Boss's Oscar, I think it's imperative they need to claim off him to have any chance. If you know, my man Jordan Gainford was to come in on the ride and take 7 off, he'd have more of a chance. You just look back, like Presenting Percy won the race of 145. Delta Work won the Pertemps of 139. And they ended up being Grade 1 novice chasers and Grade 1 open chasers in the time being. So, like, the Boss's Oscar would have to be every inch of the plot that people believe he has been for this year. It was as if the BHA handicapper just looked at the wise guys in the eye and went, not today, and not today am I being fooled. And it is because I think the Irish horses overall this year haven't gotten that bad a time of things, but the Boss's Oscar has been absolutely slapped with 151, and I'd be dubious whether he's good enough. I can't have Champagne Platinum at all. He's another one that's come in for a lot of support, backed off the boards in the Muir last year, didn't stay. I think he'd have trouble staying a properly run 3 miles. One I'd give a squeak to if she ran was Mrs. Milner. I've been solid on that all year. I don't know if the Nolans aren't bringing latest exhibition over, they're more than likely not going to bring Mrs. Milner over as their only runner. But if she was to run, I'd give her a chance of 134.
It is definitely a puzzle. The Boss's Oscar I was keen on all year, and when that mark of 151 came out, I thought they'd been quite lenient on the Irish horses this year, but it was the one Irish horse which I went, that's not ideal. I would actually, funny enough, look to the Paul Nicholls camp.
About time.
Yeah, about time. It's taken me until the 3rd day to do so. This isn't confirmation. I still think this is a fairly open handicap, and I will have a better look at it, and it might change. So if you are wanting the final selections, follow both myself and Andrew on Twitter. But at the moment, I'm leaning towards Southfield Harvest. I thought the 3rd at Newbury was good behind Polish. It got him handicapped well. I think he needed to go up a couple of pounds to guarantee his place in the race. And he reminds me, I don't think he's as good, but he reminds me a bit of Top of the Game, where he finished 2nd in the Coral Cup and made a very nice chaser. I do think Southfield Harvest will make a nice chaser. He had a long layoff before finishing 3rd at Ascot, and then he went to win Canton and was a very close 2nd behind Jacomar. He's a beautiful horse, beautiful Paul Nicholls trained horse, and 16-1 I think he's got a squeak at that. So yeah, one to keep your eye on. The next race, however, is even more of a puzzle. This is
not getting easier.
No, it's not an easy Thursday, put it that way. Not that they ever are. Allaho favourite, Imperial Aura, Min, Envoi, Melon, Fakir Duderie, St Calvados, Mr Fisher, Sam Crow. Any of them could win.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to pose this one back to you immediately, Josh, because I know you were the man that potentially started the whole craze buying Fakir Duderie. I know you have him back at fancier prices, but he's now, I think, 8-9-1. Honestly, without any bias of you backing him before, do you think that's a good price?
I think he should be 2s. No, I'm joking. He's a horse that at the start of the season I thought would appreciate 2.5 miles, and he ran at Leopardstown at Christmas over 3. And he just didn't stay, and he was pulled up that day, and he was disappointing, but he shaped fairly well. And then he dropped back down in trip at the Dublin Racing Festival and finished 2nd to Chacun Pour Soir. I still think it's potentially up in the air where he definitely goes. He could go for the Champion Chase, but I do think they're leaning towards the Ryanair. Finishing 2nd to Chacun Pour Soir last year worked for Min, and potentially you could look at that again. I do think he's a 2.5 miler. His best form's over 2.5. Whether he'd have beaten Sam Crow that day at Down Royal, we're not sure, but he's still putting a good performance. Ronald Pump was back in 3rd, and Melon, he will turn up, he will run his race, and I've warmed to Allaho, but look, when you're looking at 3 horses in a race like this, you've not got your mind made up. I'm hoping you do.
Well, not definitively, but I have been one of the big members of the Allaho fan club, and just, I think with Allaho, you look at this race, so many of these horses are either coming in off a less than ideal prep run, or the ones that are coming in off a decent prep run are nearly horses. And I've been quite consistent with my thoughts on Fakir Duderie. If you want to back him each way, I wouldn't put you off, but he just does seem to find a couple too good, especially at top grade 1 level. But Imperial Aura unseated last time at Kempton, St Calvados unseated at Sandown, Melon finished last at Leopardstown, Min banked a fence, pulled up at Leopardstown. Like, these horses are not coming in off ideal preps. Allaho won the Kinloch Bray down in Thurles, beating Ellie May. Yeah, I know he only had to give her £2, which was a way that the race was from a conditions perspective, which did help him. I just thought he picked up pretty impressively at the back of the last, having looked like there maybe wasn't that much in the tank. There was actually plenty when Paul Townend went after him. I think he's a fair chance in this race. I think he deserves to be favourite. I seem to be one of the minority that thinks that Paul Townend will ride him, because he's only not ridden him once over a fence so far, and that was because it clashed with Jacques Poursois running down in Cork. I think he'll ride him. I don't know how you could get on Min after he banked a fence the last day. Mellon's a perennial nearly horse. The one that I will back on the day, and it's a guilty pleasure more than anything, is Sam Crow, because he is 2 from 2 at Cheltenham, and people forget that, considering his form outside of Cheltenham is less than ideal.
Altior's 4 from 4 at Cheltenham at the festival. You're not backing him?
No, but Altior's around 35 years old. I've been through this. It takes a leap of faith. But you're taking 7 to 1 on Altior. As for, you can get 16 to 1 Sam Crow. That's the more type of price you can get to take a risk about a horse that's 2 from 2 at the track. His form is always fairly middling, to be honest, in the winter months. He does like a bit of nice ground. He's a much better jumper on nice ground. It just wouldn't surprise me if he's been trained to the minute to run well in the Ryanair. Obviously, Gigginstown are the sponsors of the race. They'll want him to run well. It does take a leap of faith, but as I say, at 16 to 1, you can afford to take that chance. It's not like you're having to take 5 to 1, 6 to 1 about him, and your fingers crossed he can get back to his best. 16 to 1 is more than enough each way, but I have been flying the Allaho flag. A lot of people seem to be very snippy on Allaho, but I'd be quite confident that he'll be bang there come the finish.
Yeah, I agree with Allaho. I don't think I thought he came in for unfair criticism last time. It was Balco de Flo and Battle over Doyen who tried to live with him, and they couldn't. They were finished coming around the bend, and when Ellie May came to challenge, Allaho went away again. So I don't think that was necessarily a bad performance at all, and maybe potentially slipped under the radar with how good it was. I'm at the moment, I'm going to stick by my guns and go Fakir Duduri. That would be my thoughts at the moment.
We move on to the feature on the Thursday card, the Stairs Hurdle, and it looks one of the most intriguing Stairs Hurdles we've had in a long time, actually. Paisley Park, the winner from 2 years ago. Obviously all went wrong last year when I don't think any of us could see him getting beat. He's your favourite. Thyme Hill, the young pretender to the crown, second favourite. There's a couple others in with good chances. A few of the Irish horses, Sire de Burley, Flooring Porter, the Storyteller. Even last year's winner, Lisnagar Oscar, has to come into the picture. A fascinating puzzle. Josh, do you think it's between the top 2 in the market? If so, which way are you going? Or do you think something at a bigger price can get involved?
Paisley Park's a tricky one for me. I've always wanted to get him beat. I sided with him in the Cleve Hurdle last year and thought, finally, we've got this bond, this connection, and then he did me dirty in the Stairs Hurdle. So from there on, not a massive fan of him, and I would be siding with Thyme Hill, the young pretender, the up-and-coming 7-year-old. 9-year-olds don't have a great record in the race at Paisley Park. That would go against him, but the 7-year-old who's rated 162, you're sweet on him as well.
Yeah, I love Thyme Hill. I think he's got everything to like. I thought he was very unlucky in the Albert Bartlett last year when finishing 4th. I think Dickie Johnson, if he could have 2 rides back, it might be the long walk this year and the Bartlett last year. I'm sure he's desperate to get it right this year. I think they'll ride him with a bit more restraint, as you said, and maybe hit the front later rather than sooner, not give Paisley Park something to aim at. I just don't buy it with Sire de Burley. I don't like these comparative times. Like, I know some people love times and love sectionals, and if you're a man that does it and does your ratings, fair enough. I just don't buy this, comparative. Oh well, if he ran in the other race, he'd have won it last year. Like, they're 2 completely different types of races. So I don't see the angle. I think he's lethargic. I think he needs to be bustled along early, and he's not got Barry Geraghty on his back, which doesn't help either. Paisley Park, I'd have liked to have seen him run in the Cleve Hurdle if I wanted to back him. I just don't know what's going to happen with him coming back to Cheltenham. It might all be happy, and if it was, I couldn't begrudge the connections. There's some of the great connections. Andrew Gemmel's one of the great men for horse racing. It's a great, and to be honest, with the way horse racing's been covered the last week or two, we could do with a few feel-good stories at Cheltenham. So I wouldn't begrudge connections. I just wouldn't be sure whether he'll look at Cheltenham and think, God, remember what happened last year. And that might be something just to bear in mind. I think the Irish horses in this are brutal, to be honest. I don't like Sire de Burley. I don't like Flooring Porter. If the storyteller wins the Stayers Hurdle, it will have been a worse renewal than last year. The one I would potentially give a squeak to each way actually is last year's winner, Lisnagar Oscar. I think he's just overpriced if people want something at one of the bigger prices. I'd echo your thoughts about Fury Road. I do like him a lot. I just don't know whether he's going to run or not. So Lisnagar Oscar certainly will run. He's 16 to 1. Wouldn't be without a chance, especially each way. But Thyme Hill for me, I've been solid on him all year. I'm not going to let that go now.
I've got a tweet that I put up after his long distance hurdle win that with Thyme, there you go, Thyme Hill wins the Stayers Hurdle. So I'm going to have egg on my face if anything but that happens. We'll move on then to the Handicap Chase, which is coming up next, the Paddy Power Handicap Chase. It was the Brown Advisory. Cheltenham sponsors have gone AWOL this year. Farkless is favourite, the Shunter second favourite. Away with the Sea, I think they are leaning towards running him here over the Grand Annual. This is tricky. Very trappy as well. Yeah, I'd echo those thoughts in terms of how trappy this is. The Plate's usually a very tricky race to get into. Farkless, I can't have him as favourite. I understand the angle, he's run a few solid races. I just don't think he's got that much in hand off his current mark. I know he did win the Triumph Hurdle a couple of years ago, but they weren't not trying with him the last twice in both the Paddy Power at Christmas and the Leopardstown Chase at the Dublin Racing Festival, and he was third. I think he was fourth in both of them in the end. So I wouldn't be too keen on him. Two, just if they were to run, I'd give a chance to. I'd probably back the Shunter wherever he runs. I think it will either be this or the Coral Cup. I think they're leaning towards the County Hurdle.
Oh, they might be. Oh, geez, that's probably ballsy enough. I just think he needs a step up in trip. I thought he won at Kelso just from kind of a class angle rather than him appreciating 2 miles, but that could well be the case. The other one, just in case it did run, is Joseph O'Brien's horse in this, not Away for the Sea, although I wouldn't put anyone off backing Away for the Sea, to be fair. Fee Duderie, if he rocked up here, I'd be interested in him. I don't know whether this is the plan, but he's a 6-year-old. He's, I think, 10 or 12 to 1, non-runner, no bet. Not maybe the worst price in the world. If we're sitting here in a year or two's time and Fee Duderie isn't better than 145, I'll eat my hat. Like, I think he's a proper good horse. Whether he's going to run in the place this year, I don't know. You might know a little bit more on that. But Fee Duderie and the Shunter for me if he rocked up. But very tricky race.
I agree, very tricky race. I wouldn't have a strong opinion, but there's two that I like. The first being Midnight Shadow. He finished second to Chatham Street Lad in the December Gold Cup at Cheltenham, and if that horse who was chucked in wasn't in the race, he'd have won it by 15 lengths. He's consistent. I think he's off a fairly nice rating of 149, and he could be better than that. They ran at Wetherby last time, he was pulled up, but I think that may have been the plan. The other one that I'd be probably slightly more keen on is Venetia Williams' Espoir de Guy. Don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but if it's soft ground, I think I'd be siding with him. Second at Warwick to Espoir de Tellier. God, look at my French pronunciation.
And you were giving out to me the other day for looking at the French races. Giving us a linguistics lesson here.
I reckon there's a French Let's Talk Racing viewer who is absolutely hounding us right now. But yeah, Espoir de Guy won at Ascot last year, won at Ascot this year as well. The two disappointing runs this year have been behind Mr. Malarkey at Ascot over 3, and I don't think he's a 3-miler. And the other one was again behind Dashel Drasher. So I'm hoping with Venetia Williams' good record in the race and an extra furlong and a strong pace to aim at, he'd be right up in the list for me. So hopefully soft ground on the Thursday and he can go close.
So we'll move on to the Mayor's Novices Hurdle, a race that Willie Mullins has dominated since its inception 5 years ago. He has a strong hand in the race again this year. It probably doesn't look like one of the vintage renewals of the race, I must say. It looks fairly middling with a lot of these Irish mares having beaten each other. Josh, can you make much sense of this, and who'd you be siding with?
follow Willie Mullins. He's won every single renewal. I think Hookup's probably got the most solid form, finishing 4th behind Appreciate It at the Dublin Racing Festival. And it's interesting that they chose to go there rather than in a mares only race. So potentially her, I think, at 5 to 1. I think she's currently best price. To be fair, one of the guys that used to get involved with Racing Central, Charlie Sharp, put up Hookup at the start of the year for 50 to 1 for this race. I think he's landed a right touch there. I think he'd be rubbing his hands together. I would go Hookup. I think Glens of Antrim would be my second best, although hasn't won yet. Has got really nice form, and maybe she could be one that follows a Concertista route and maybe places in this, remains a novice next year, and then comes back to this in 12 months' time and shows them who's boss.
Yeah, I couldn't put anyone off Hookup. Look, Royal Cahala's a mare I like an awful lot. I just would be concerned, as you say, going against Willie Mullins in a race like this, and I do believe Royal Cahala would need soft ground over 2 miles. It's good to see them running. They've confirmed they're going to run. Very up in the air about Rosie's Hollow at the moment. If you were to pin me to the ground now, I'd say she won't run, which is obviously a shame because she brings in some good form, winning the Solarina last time out, but she'd have to carry a penalty as a result. You had it with Intukas last in the day 2 preview, and I know you've slightly stolen my thunder there, but this Glens of Antrim, you can still get 14 to 1 about Glens of Antrim. There is no way in hell she's going off 14 to 1. Wouldn't surprise me at all if she's vying for favouritism come the day, actually. I think the Gelding's form is the best on offer in here. Second, only beaten 3 lengths by Statler at Christmas time. Went on to finish 4 lengths behind Mr. Incredible, who has form tied in with Gallard de Menil, which also looks hot at Naas the other day. She's been running over 2.5 miles and been a little bit soft in the finish. I think this staying 2 miles in the Mares Novices hurdle could really suit, and a little bit like Hookup, the fact that there's only 2 hurdles in the last 7 furlongs I think will really assist her, as it might take away from some of the other mares, especially Royal Cahala, who's actually a very nimble jumper. So I just believe JP McManus, especially if Rosie's Hollow comes out of the race, there could be a sea of blue for this horse come the off time. We've seen JP land a touch or 2 before in plenty of festival handicaps. Wouldn't surprise me if Glens of Antrim goes off a very short price in the Mares Novice.
So you mentioned Intukas. Would Glens of Antrim be on nap?
No, but you can wait 22 seconds and you'll get onto my nap.
We'll move on to the Kim Muir, and it's finally time to talk about our man Fred. Run Wild Fred. What price are you on, Andrew?
I'm on it fancy prices because I don't I don't like name dropping. But if people don't believe me, I did put a tweet about Run Wild Fred, I think on the 3rd of January, saying that he might be the Kim Muir horse for this year. So I'm holding on to that tweet for dear life if anyone thinks I'm after timing.
Can you describe how you felt when he got a mark of 140?
Well, it was all in the Gordon Elliott situation at the time, so it was very hard to be like very, very excited. But you texted me a list of these handicap entries. I'd actually gotten a snippet of what the entries were, but you texted them to me, and I just wrote back, block capitals, Run Wild Fred. Next message, 140, good thing. And that's all I needed to say. Then I put up a tweet saying that the English handicapper is one of the greatest men in the history of racing. I do still believe he is. And God, if this Run Wild Fred wins, it won't be beans on toast for the week if he goes in, because I've taken a right stab at him. I think he's a super handicapped horse. He's actually, like, if we're actually facing facts and getting back to reality, he's not the most trustworthy horse in the world, and he does wear blinkers, but he was good in the Thyestes the last day behind Cocoa Beach, who was also very well handicapped that day. I think they'll be very content, let's just say, that he hasn't been moved by the English handicapper. I can't really see why on earth he wasn't moved. I thought we might have a struggle getting him in, below the ceiling, a 145 for the race. I don't know at this stage why we've still called this channel Let's Talk Racing. It should be just Let's Talk Run Wild Fred, the amount of times I've talked about him. But I think he wins. He'll be my nap of the week. You can still get 11 to 2 about him. as Josh said, there's no point putting up a nap at 4 to 5 or something like that. Plenty of people can do that in their own time. But 11 to 2 for my probably best chance of a handicap winner all week. I think he's very well handicapped. I think this has been the target, and if he wins, you'll definitely be hearing about it on Twitter. There'll be long faces if Run Wild Fred gets beat in the Muir, I must say.
So we're not doing a Cheltenham reaction video on the Thursday night, if that happens?
Not in the slightest bit, no. You won't hear from me, actually. I'll just go missing. Until Al Boom runs, and if he wins, then I'll come out of the shadows. It would be like that Homer Simpson one where he goes into the hedge and then pops his head back out, that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I really love Run Wild Fred. I need to stop talking about him because I'm digging it up too much. And the last time I did this was for Bob Hope or No Hope before Doncaster, and we know how that ended up finishing.
So there we go. Andrew Blair White's nap of the Cheltenham Festival is Run Wild Fred in the Muir. He joins my nap in Tucas in the Grand Annual. We've got them out of the way, pressure's off now, or pressure is on, more like. But thank you very much for watching the Thursday preview. We do hope you've enjoyed these. We've really enjoyed making them, and it's just been very worthwhile looking back at all the feedback as well. So thank you very much.